Some people ask this question: where does the Old Testament say that God, who is spirit, would become flesh? Strictly speaking, the Old Testament does not state in one single phrase, God, who is spirit, will become flesh. But that is not how biblical revelation usually works. The Old Testament doesn't give us one flat formula, but a chain of prophecies which, taken together, form the doctrine of incarnation. First, Isaiah 7:14 says, "Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel." Hebrew Immanuel means God with us. Not merely a man of God, but God with us. Second, Isaiah 9:6 says, "And his name shall be called Mighty God." Hebrew El Gibor means mighty God. If the child who is born is called El Gibor, then we are not simply speaking about an ordinary prophet. So, Micah 5:2 says about the Messiah that he will come from Bethlehem, but at the same time he is going forth from the old, from everlasting. Hebrew Mikedem Mimei Olam points not to an ordinary human beginning, but to prepare pre-eternity. Fourth, Malachi 3:1 says, "And the Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple." But before this, the text speaks of a messenger who prepares the way. The New Testament directly applies these to Christ. In other words, the one who comes to the temple is not merely another teacher, but the Lord himself. Fifth, Isaiah 43 says, "The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord." Hebrew Yahweh. The New Testament applies this passage to John the Baptist, who prepared the way for Jesus. The logic is simple. If John prepares the way for Yahweh and John prepares the way for Jesus, then the Christian reading sees in Jesus the appearance of the Lord himself. 6. Zechariah 2:10 and 11 says, "I will come and dwell in your midst, and you shall know that the Lord of hosts has sent me." So the Lord is speaking, yet he also says that the Lord has sent him. Already within the Old Testament itself, we see the mystery of distinction of persons within the unity of God. 7th, Zechariah 12:10 says, "They will look upon me whom they have pierced." Yes, there are textual nuances in translation, but Christian tradition sees here a direct